in this election year. Now, the legacy media continues to play up headlines proclaiming that the public support for Israel has declined. I saw a poll today. And we've already seen the Biden administration abandon Israel just this week to appease their far-left base. And as we were just talking about with Leader Scalise, this is historic because Israel and the support for Israel has been a bipartisan issue for a multitude of reasons. One, they're our strongest ally in the Middle East. They're really a stabilizing force in the Middle East. And for most conservatives, Christians in particular, there's a spiritual component here. Now, the media wants to say that hey, Americans are walking away. But a recent public survey conducted by Gideon300 reveals that when voters become informed, actually find out what the Biden administration is pushing, and the fact that the Palestinian Authority is aligned with Hamas, the terrorist, yes, that's right, they dramatically shift their opinions, backing away from wanting to push Israel into a so-called peace deal. It's anything but peaceful. And that shift is most dramatic among, guess who? Democrats. Joining me now to explain the numbers is Matthew Faraci. He is the president of Gideon300. Matthew, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hey, and don't I also get some honorific as president of the Tony Perkins Jewish fan club or something like that? I think so.
The T-shirt's in the mail.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm excited about your May event, Tony. So, Tony, one thing that exactly what you said. Don't believe what you're seeing on Twitter.
Hey, Matthew, let me stop you just a second. Move over to your right just a little bit.
Okay.
I want to see Alf. I want to see Alf behind you.
That's right. Sorry. This is something that a passion that Tony and I share, which is a love for the show Alf. This was back when television was wholesome and taught good values, and you could have a good, clean laugh.
That's right.
Right.
Now go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay. So there's a Harris X. I'm not making this up. There's a Harris X Harvard CAPS poll that they do quite regularly. And one of the things that we've seen in this poll back from the beginning, since October 7th, is that support for Israel hovers around 79, 80% of America versus Hamas. This is voters versus Hamas. So I've seen this number over and over and over again. And in fact, one of the interesting trends is that young people have actually trended more supportive, which again goes against everything you see from the propaganda official state media that we're fed every day. So we conducted a poll with Scott Rasmussen, RMG Research, which was fascinating. But Tony, can I back up and just tell your viewers for 2 seconds what's going on besides the whole Rafah plan to stop the Rafah invasion? Okay, so the Biden State Department is, a lot of people have been wondering, why is there so much tension between Bibi and Biden and the State Department and this whole thing? But what's the tension over? And part of the tension is clearly that the U.S., for various reasons, which we could go into if we had more time, doesn't want Israel to finish the job and take out Hamas and invade Rafah. But the sleight of hand, the quiet other thing that they are pressuring Israel for is that they ultimately want Israel to settle for a two-state solution, which means the end of Israel. And the State Department, from public reports that are out there that I've read and a lot of other people have read, is trying to polish up the Palestinian Authority and make them look more palatable, so that, because the question is, Tony, if there's a two-state solution, who would such a solution be with? Who's the person making the deal on the other end? And what the Biden administration is doing is saying, well, that's going to be the Palestinian Authority, the more moderate, peaceful wing of the governance over there. So we asked voters this sort of simple question: hey, would you be open to a peace deal with the Palestinian Authority? And roughly, and about 55%, slim majority, said, sure, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. And then in the survey, and this was, I give Scott all the credit for this, not my idea at all. Scott's idea was, well, why don't we ask them, we'll put other information in front of them and see if people change their view. So we said, essentially, given the Palestinian Authority's alignment with Hamas, for example, Tony, you know they called for a unity government with Hamas before they moderated their stance and said, oh, wait a minute, we might have to wait because of public opinion. But given that a lot of the people, for instance, people in Palestinian Authority controlled areas have voiced support for Hamas in some polls as high as 80%, given that there have been over 4,000 attempted terrorist attacks from just the West Bank since October 7th. Once people started to learn the details of that, they swung in their opinion. And Tony, I've never seen a swing this big in any poll I've ever done, and I've done hundreds of them.
So, Matthew, you're saying facts matter?
Yeah, shocking. Shocking. Facts matter. And Tony, the biggest swing was Democrats. 30 points. They went from majority in support of this deal to against the deal.
So let me ask you this. I know you haven't asked this question, but let me put one out there that you ought to ask. When we look at the money that's actually flowing from the United States to Iran, remember all the money we unfroze? That I was over in Israel just a week and a half ago and was briefed, showing me the money trail of that money from Iran going to Hamas, Hezbollah. We also have the UN we've given $1 billion in the last 3 years. That money has gone to Hamas as well. Matthew, I'm hearing music. That means we're out of time. But those are some questions you should dig into because you've got some good information here, and I think the public needs to know the facts. It makes a difference.
Let me just leave you with this, Tony. When I first came to D.C. a million years ago, I worked for the great legendary TV host John McLaughlin, who you knew. And John told me to remember one rule, which I thought was so cynical at the time, and now I realize it's true. He said, just remember that politics always drives policy.
That's
every time.
That's right. Thanks, Matthew.